أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثار والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام. وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات وعلى جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله المماحدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله على زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبا، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن السعد، ولعن الله الشمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت والجمت وتنكبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فاسأل الله الذي بأكرم مكامك وأكرمني أن يرزقني طلب سارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتي وبالبراءة ممن أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناسبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم ووليا لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبتني عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المكام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب سار مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يؤتيني بمصابكم أفضل ما يؤتي مصابا بمصيبتي ما مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع أهل السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مكامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محياي محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية، وابن آكلة الأكباد اللئين ابن اللئين، على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف، وكفى فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم الآن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيامي حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وعلى نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم الآن أول ظالما ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآكل تابيا له على ذلك. اللهم لعن الإصابة التي جاهدت الحسين عليه السلام والشايات وبايات والتابعات على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أول ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم الآن يزيد خامسا والآن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانا وعمر بن السعد والشمر وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. سجود. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مسابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم الرزية. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلهم وهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلطان بن حسن علي بن موسى الرضا. كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان يا سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك إمام وإمام الإنس والجان. أجر الله فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجلل من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mu'mineen, on Thursday, the 27th of August, we will be serving the Niyaz and Hazri of Kamre Bani Hashim, Mullah Abbas Alamdar, from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Mu'minees, please ensure that you all follow the advice of Muharram 2020 volunteers. Mu'mineen, Jumerat 27 August na inshallah Mullah Abbas Alamdar ni Niyaz તથા હાજરી તકસીમ કરવામાં આવશે. 5 વાગ્યાથી 7:30 વાગ્યા સુધી દરખાસ્ત કરવામાં આવે છે કે મોમિનીન મોહરમ 2020 વોલન્ટિયર્સની તમે વાત સાંભળજો. જઝાકલ્લાહ. Mu'mineen, today's program is dedicated for the Isale Sawab of Maru Mohammed Ashik Shah, Marumeens of Manji family, Marumeens of Punjani family, Marumeens of Kurji family, Marumeens of Asaria family, Marumeens of Dala family, Marumeens of Ismail family, Marumeens of Jaffer family, Marumeens of Kasmali family, Marumeens of Rauji family, Marumeens of Barwani family, Marumeens of Manji family, Marumeens of Pirbai family, Marumeens of Sharif family, Marum Ghulam Bas Amir Giga, Marumeens of Jamal family, Marumeens of Faadu family, Marumeens of Merali family, Marumeens of Rajab Ali Rahemtulla Damani family, Mrs. Jaya Nazmul Damani. મોમિનીન, આજની મજલિસ અમીર અલીભાઈ વાલજી તરફથી તેમના મરહૂમ પિતાજી મોહમ્મદ અલીભાઈ વાલજી, મરહૂમા માતાજી ઝૈનબભાઈ વાલજી, મરહૂમા કનીઝ ફાતિમા મોહમ્મદ અલી વાલજી, મરહૂમ મોહસિનભાઈ મોહમ્મદ અલી વાલજી તથા કુલ મરહૂમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ બંદે ખુદા તરફથી રોશન અલી મોહમ્મદ રફીક ફાઝલ, રજબ અલી લાલજી લખાની, ઝેરાભાઈ ગીગા, મરુમ ગુલામબાસ ગીગા. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ મુર્તઝાભાઈ વાલજી તરફથી વાલજી ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, માસ્તર ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, રહીમ ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, પારાપિયા ફેમિલીના મરુમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ બંદે ખુદા તરફથી મરુમ અલીભાઈ રજબ અલી પરદાન, પરદાન ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, પંજવાની ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, ચગાની ફેમિલીના મરુમીન તથા કુલ મરુમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ મુર્તઝાભાઈ જાફર તરફથી મરુમ અબ્દુલ રસૂલ રમઝાન અલી, અલીભાઈ, મરુમા રૂકૈયાબાઈ મૌલિદીના મેરાલી, મરુમ હાજી મૌલિદીના મેરાલી, મરુમા શેરબાનુબાઈ મોમન, મરુમ રમઝાન અલી અલીભાઈ, મરુમા શેરબાનુબાઈ બંદાલી તથા કુલ મરુમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ મરુમ દાલા જાફર ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, અસ્કર અલી ફાઝલ ઇબ્રાહીમ, અલી મોહમ્મદ જાફર, પરદાન ફેમિલીના મરુમીન તથા કુલ મરુમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ વાલજી ફેમિલી તરફથી Marhum Muhammad Taqi Walji, Marhuma Amina Bai Walji, Marhum Ali Bai Walji, ફેમિલીના મરુમીન, કાઝમી ફેમિલીના મરુમીન તથા કુલ મરુમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. તેમજ આજની મજલિસ મરહૂમ ગુલામ હુસૈન પીર મોહમ્મદના વારિસો તરફથી મરહૂમ ગુલામ હુસૈનભાઈ પીર મોહમ્મદ, મરહૂમા ગ્વેન્ડલિન બટલર, મરહૂમા કુલસુમભાઈ મોલેદીના, મરહૂમ મોહમ્મદભાઈ પીર મોહમ્મદ, મરહૂમા મલેકભાઈ પીર મોહમ્મદ, મરહૂમ રોશન પીર મોહમ્મદ, મરહૂમ રોશન લાડક, મરહૂમા લેલાભાઈ વાલજી, મરહૂમ અકબરભાઈ વાલજી, મરહૂમ મોશીનભાઈ વાલજી, મરહૂમ હુસૈન ધનજી, મરહૂમા તાહિરાબાઈ લાડક, મરહૂમ રોશન અબ્બાસ લાડક તથા કુલ મરહૂમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે રાખવામાં આવેલ છે. સરને દરખાસ્ત કરવામાં આવે છે કુલ મરહૂમીનના ઇસાલે સવાબ અર્થે એક સૂરે ફાતિહા. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my scholars, elders, brothers, sisters, and my lovely children. My name is Shabir Sadak. I am a member of Husseini Islamic Center, Peterborough. I am part of the Muharram 2020 team. As we could not visit Karbala this year, I, together with 3 other members of the team, created a replica of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's journey in a form of a model. The purpose of this model is to educate our younger generation as well as to bring the azaa of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to your homes. I'm now going to hand over to our alim who is going to talk us through the scenes before you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. I want to give a brief explanation of this Karbala model. It depicts the journey of Imam Hussein alayhi salam from Madinatul Munawwara and then going to Mecca, and from Mecca to Karbala, and after the event of Karbala, how the captives were taken to Kufa, and then from Kufa to Sham. We begin with Medina. Medina, 28th of Rajab, 60 AH, Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his group with his members of the family, they leave Medina. Imam Hussein alayhi salam has decided to take a stand against Yazid, and in order to awaken the Muslim Ummah, he makes an intention and travels to Mecca. Mecca, the city of Mecca, which houses the Kaaba. The reason of coming down there is that Imam Hussein alayhi salam knew that during the time when people come for Umrah, people come for Hajj, they come from all over the Islamic places. And therefore there would be the best place to talk to the people and to convey his reasons of opposing Yazid. In other words, Imam Hussein al-Islam used the best media possible at that time where he would meet the people. And of course, there are many people who came to Mecca and they came to meet Imam Hussein al-Islam. Amongst them were companions of the Holy Prophet. Amongst them were the ordinary Muslims. And Imam Hussein al-Islam explained to them the reason why he stood against Yazid. But Yazid decided that Imam Hussein al-Islam is not going to give his oath of allegiance. So he decided that even if Hussein is performing tawaf of Kaaba, kill him. He sent a group of about 30 people to do so. Imam Hussein al-Islam came to know it is 8th of Dhul Hijjah. The pilgrims are preparing to go to Arafat and then to go to Mina. And Imam Hussein al-Islam decides, I have to leave. I have to secure the sanctity of Kaaba. And Imam Hussein al-Islam lives with his group, and they make an intention of going towards Kufa. Why Kufa? Because Muslim bin Aqil had written a letter to Imam Hussein al-Islam saying that people of Kufa have already agreed and they have given their oath of allegiance. Here Imam leaves 8th of Dhul Hijjah, 9th of Dhul Hijjah. The situation in Kufa has turned completely, and Muslim bin Aqil has been martyred. And then Imam, whilst traveling, was always asking if there was any person from Kufa as to what the situation in Kufa was. And someone said at one stage that Muslim bin Aqil has been arrested, and then at later stage Imam hears that Muslim bin Aqil has been martyred, but Imam is traveling, and on the way he meets Hur, and Hur stops Imam from going to Kufa, and they travel towards a direction which is Karbala. Karbala, 2nd of Muharram, 61 AH, where Imam Hussein al-Islam comes. He inquires from people as to what is the name of this place. People have given different name, Nainawa, Shattul Furat, any other name. And someone then says, Karbin Wabala, this is the place of Karbala. Imam says, this is the place where I'm going to stay. One important point for us to all remember is that that land of Karbala was bought by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He actually bought that land, and there he put up the tents, and on 3rd of Muharram, Umar Saad, the leader of Yazid's army, arrives, and every day more and more people are arriving from Yazid's army. The tents have been all put up, and then 7th of Muharram, the order, do not give access to water to the army of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And then 9th of Muharram arrives Shamr with the order that if Umar Saad does not attack, does not fight against Imam Hussein alayhi salam, then Shamr has to take the command and has to fight. And on 9th of Muharram, they prepare themselves, that is the army of Yazid, ready to attack. And it is at that time that Imam Hussein al-Islam asked Hazrat Abul Fadl Abbas to ask for respite of one night. And that night, eve of Ashura, spent in remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal. Children are thirsty. Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. But the brave companions of Imam Hussein al-Islam and the members of his family have all decided that we will not move away. We will not abandon Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And on the day of Ashura, they all fight valiantly, everyone ready to sacrifice his life. And we find that Qasim has given his life, Aun and Muhammad have given their life. Hazrat Abul Fadl Abbas has also given his life, and both his arms have been severed. The right arm on one side, and then he moves forward, and the left arm on the other side. And one by one, everyone has given his life, and finally the time comes, and it is after Dhuhr, nearing the time of Asr, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam falls down from the horse, and Shimr comes, and Shimr is on the chest of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he severs the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It has been, or it was, a traumatic day for the family of the Holy Prophet. Their bodies were just left without being attended, without being buried. 11th of Muharram, the captives are taken from Karbala and they're first brought to Kufa, and then in Kufa, from Kufa they are taken away and they are taken to Sham, and in Sham they are kept in a jail, in a place where there is no roof, and they were also brought in front of Yazid and the people who were there, who saw how Yazid mistreated the head of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, walking with his stick on the eyes, on the lips, on the cheeks of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this journey ended with the release of the captives, who then returned to Medina, and from there the event of Karbala is remembered every year from 61 AH onwards and up to today. Insha'Allah, this message will continue to grow and it will be spread throughout the world until the time of the reappearance of Imam al-Zamana, Ajjalallahu Farajahu al-Sharif, walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله يا محمد وآل محمد أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن مولانا أمير المؤمنين عليا وأولاده المعصومين حجج الله أشهد أن مولانا أمير المؤمنين عليا وأولاده المعصومين حجج الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح هيا على الفلاح هيا على خير الأمل هيا على خير الأمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اجعل قلبي بارا وعيشي كارا وعملي سارا ورزقي دارا وأولادي أبرارا واجعل لي عند قبر نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد
صلوات. نعرہ تکبیر، نعرہ رسالت، نعرہ حیدری. قاسم کو کربلا میں سجاتے رہے حسین، قاسم کو کربلا میں سجاتے رہے حسین، ابن حسین کو دلہا بناتے رہے حسین، ابن حسین کو دلہا بناتے رہے حسین. مہندی بھی روئی پھٹ کر صحرا بھی رو دیا، مہندی بھی روئی پھٹ کر صحرا بھی رو دیا. دریا بھی آنسو کے بہاتے رہے حسین، دریا بھی آنسو کے بہاتے رہے حسین. قاسم اتر کر سندھ سے تقسیم ہو گیا، قاسم اتر کر سندھ سے تقسیم ہو گیا. فروا کا لال کربلا میں پامال ہو گیا. صلوات.
صلوات. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. قیامت بن کے دن عاشور کا زینب پہ آیا ہے، قیامت بن کے دن عاشور کا زینب پہ آیا ہے. ہزاروں قاتلوں کے درمیان زہرا کا جایا ہے، ہزاروں قاتلوں کے درمیان زہرا کا جایا ہے. کیا ویران ایک جولا اجارا ایک مادر کو، کیا ویران ایک جولا اجارا ایک مادر کو. بتائے قاتل اصغر تیرے کیا ہاتھ آیا ہے، بتائے قاتل اصغر تیرے کیا ہاتھ آیا ہے. قیامت بن کے دن عاشور کا زینب پہ آیا ہے. کہا ڈھونڈے علی اصغر کو مادر کس طرف جائے، کہا ڈھونڈے علی اصغر کو مادر کس طرف جائے. اندھیری رات ہے بے شیرد جنگل بسایا ہے، اندھیری رات ہے بے شیرد جنگل بسایا ہے. قیامت بن کے دن عاشور کا زینب پہ آیا ہے. صدا زہرا کی آتی تھی اٹھو غازی سہارا دو، صدا زہرا کی آتی تھی اٹھو غازی سہارا دو. میرے بیٹے تنہا لاشائے اکبر اٹھایا ہے، मेरे बेटे ने तन्हा लाशाए अकबर उठाया है कयामत बन के दिन आशूरा का ज़ैनब पे आया है सकीना रोई है शायद तमाचे शिमरने मारे सकीना रोई है शायद तमाचे शिमरने मारे बदल कर करवते गाजी का लाशा थरथराया है बदल कर करवते गाजी का लाशा थरथराया है कयामत बन के दिन आशूरा का ज़ैनब पे आया है कयामत बन के दिन आशूरा का ज़ैनब पे आया है हजारों कातिलों के दरमिया सहरा का जाया है हजारों कातिलों के दरमिया ज़हरा का जाया है सलवात
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is a Marsiya about Hazrat Abbas, the musibah he faced on the day of Ashura. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. What happened in the camp? Let us remember. What happened in the camp? Let us remember. Everyone's thirsty, calling for water. Everyone's thirsty, calling for water. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. Let us remember and understand what happened Ashura in that land. In Karbala is the progeny, thirsty, hungry, facing tyranny, and the cries of the children everywhere, and the cries of the children everywhere. Everyone's thirsty and in despair. Everyone's thirsty and in despair. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. When Abbas saw in pain the cries of the children going in vain,
He rode his horse like a brave warrior and went to Furat to get some water. He went to the water with a broken heart. He went to the water with a broken heart. Everyone's thirsty, waiting on their part. Everyone's thirsty, waiting on their part. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. When Abbas reached the running water, he dipped his hand to drink from the river. Then he remembered the thirst of Hussein. Oh my soul, he said, don't go in vain. What am I to say tomorrow to Haidar? What am I to say tomorrow to Haidar? Everyone's thirsty and I drank the water. Everyone's thirsty and I drank the water. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. He stayed thirsty and he filled the bag and headed to the tent, but did not drag. That's when they cut off his right hand. But failure did this warrior not understand. He took the water in his left and said, he took the water in his left and said, everyone's thirsty, to the camp I'll head. Everyone's thirsty, to the camp I'll head. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. But his left hand also got cut, and the tyrants in his path wanted to intercept. They hit the water with an arrow. That's when he felt pain and sorrow. What added to the pain is the arrow of the eye. What added to the pain is the arrow of the eye. Everyone's thirsty, he started to cry. Everyone's thirsty, he started to cry. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. When Abbas got hit with an iron pillar, Ya Hussein, he cried, come to me, my brother. When Hussein saw the banner falling down, brother, my back's broken, you are the crown. The children are waiting for you to come back. The children are waiting for you to come back. Everyone's thirsty, I have a broken back. Everyone's thirsty, I have a broken back. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please recite a loud salawat wherever you may be. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. مان روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر مان روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر جب مدینے میں نظر آئے گی ویرانی گھر مان روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر جب کہ زندان میں تم دونوں کا سر آیا تھا میں نہ روئی تھی تمہیں تم کو گلا تو ہوگا معاف کرنا جو اگر ہو سکے لخت جگر مان روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر مجھ سے پوچھیں گے جو عبداللہ کہاں ہیں بچے کیا وجہ ہے میری نظروں سے نہا ہیں بچے کیا جواب ان کو یہ ماں دے گی میرے نور نظر ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر حجر دیکھوں گی تمہارے تو تڑپ جاؤں گی کس طرح سے دل بیتاب کو سمجھاؤں گی اب نہیں لوٹ کے آئیں گے میرے رش کے کمر ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر تم نہیں پاس تو اب ناز اٹھاؤں کس کے حجر ہاتھوں سے بھلا اب میں سجاؤں کس کے کاش مر جاتی تیرے ساتھ ہی دکھیا مادر روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر اے میرے لال تیرے بعد غضب ہم پہ ہوا ہائے اس چشم فلک نے بھی یہ منظر دیکھا سر برہنا یہ لعین لے گئے ہم کو در در ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر بین سن کر یہ اٹھی زینب بقیہ سے صدا غم نہ کھائے میری بیٹی کے یہ ماتم پہ فدا ہے میرے پاس میرے او نو محمد دلبر ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر جب کہ زندان میں تم دونوں کا سر آیا تھا میں نہ روئی تھی تمہیں تم کو گلا تو ہوگا معاف کرنا جو اگر ہو سکے اے لخت جگر میں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر جب مدینے میں نظر آئے گی ویران یہ گھر ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر مجھ سے پوچھیں گے جو عبداللہ کہاں ہیں بچے کیا وجہ ہے میری نظروں سے نہا ہیں بچے کیا جواب ان کو یہ ماں دے گی میرے نور نظر ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر ماں نہ روئے گی تمہیں او نو محمد کیوں کر الفاتحہ
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ عظم اللہ اجورنا و اجورکم بمثابین بالحسین علیہ السلام. Tonight, the night of 7th Muharram, we extend our most sincere condolences to Janab Fatimatu Zahra Salamullahi alayha on the martyrdom of her beloved grandson Qasim, on the martyrdom of Abul Fazl al-Abbas, on the martyrdom of Mullah Hussein, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. We also send our salutation to the ladies of Karbala, those ladies who ensured that the survival of Islam is there by giving the sacrifices, the difficulties that they suffered, and the children that they gave away in the way of Islam to save Islam. I stand in front of you today to talk about the plight of the ladies of Peterborough, the ladies who have love of Janab Zainab Salamullahi alayha in their heart. They have done their best to make sure the upbringing of our children in Peterborough, in the name of Hussein, like bring them up on their role models of Qasim and on Muhammad. But they have had great, great challenges. One of the greatest challenge has been the Imam Barga that we built in 1990s, meant for 120 odd families. And today there are 375 plus families in Peterborough. The ladies have been sitting in a cramped position, hardly any space for them to even breathe. There have been instances where people have fainted in the extreme heat. And there have been instances, I remember, as the past leader I was asked, when are you going to do something for these women? Ladies were carried up into the overflow halls, into the madrasa classrooms, and some ladies could not walk up, they were carried on chair. These are the difficulties that the ladies have had, and yet they have continued. Inshallah, the Al-Qaim project will ensure that for the next 25 years, we have at least 25 years, we'll have such an adequate facility with a special room for the mums and tots, for the ladies who have difficulty sitting, to sit properly. But the second most burning question for the ladies of Peterborough and all the lovers of Ahlul Bayt is the upbringing of the children in the society that we live in, the difficulties that we have in the society. And the madrasa has been the center focal point for this. Again, our madrasa was built in 1990s, only for number of students, probably maximum 120, 130 students. Today we have 285 plus students attending. Can you imagine the children cramped in the classroom? And the mothers are only crying, please give our children a facility which is up to date, that will work in the environment that we live in. And the final point that the ladies have is that in their heart they want their youths, upbringing of the youths like Ali Akbar and Qasim. They want them to be on the right path. We in Al-Qaim have planned for special facility for the youth. English Language Center. We have in Al-Qaim areas for library, for the research, for the get-together. So important to understand those messages. And indeed, today, this Al-Qaim project that is coming to fruition soon is in urgent need. Nearly 2 million shortfall. And we need this help urgently. We have been out. In few years back, I came to Africa. I came to Nairobi, Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, to all the parts of Europe with the team of Al-Qaim people. We asked for help. Some people said, yes, we will donate. Some donated. Some said, we will donate. Now is the time to bring the donation forward. We urgently need your help. We are short of money. We have to pay back the loan. We have to pay back the money for construction. And we have a great need now. One final point that I wish to make, that today, in the name of Abul Fazl al-Abbas and Qasim, donate generously, donate generously. Remember, this donation is Sawab-e-Jariyah. It will be there forever. It will never leave you till the day of judgment. It will always be there for you to help. And whatever you can donate, you will soon see a little notice underneath this film telling you how to donate, what to donate. we urgently need. And final point that I need to make today is the point relating to homes. We even have the ijazah for the homes from Ayatollah Sistani to use for this project. Donate generously in the name of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Wa alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنكم لتأتون الرجال شهوة من دون النساء بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. The discussion concerning Islam and homosexuality, and Islam and its relationship with the world of same-gender relations, no doubt, is one of the most sensitive discussions in Islamic thought. At the same time, it's a sensitive discussion around the world today, because the discussion concerning open same-gender relations, gay and lesbian relations, is a discussion which is a modern phenomenon. Up until 50 years ago, most communities did not legalize same-gender marriages, for example, let alone legalize for people to walk in the street who are either gay or of a different orientation, such as lesbian or bisexual. You find, therefore, that this particular issue is one which many parts of the world have still not accepted, although sometimes the media may portray that every part of the world has accepted, for example, those who have decided to have same-gender relations. The reality is that there are still many parts of the world which are coming to terms with this. There are still many parts of the world who have not even reached the conclusion that this is a right for the human being, a right for the human being to choose whether they want to be in a relationship with someone of the same gender or someone of the opposite gender. So you find, for example, that until today, while many assume that it's only religion that may, for example, have a difference of opinion with homosexuality, the reality is that there are still people out there who may not necessarily subscribe to any of the Abrahamic religions, but do not necessarily agree, for example, with homosexuality. And therefore, even when you come to universal declarations of human rights and so on, you still have that many have not reached the conclusion that homosexuality and, for example, the rights related to the gay or the lesbian community are to be ratified. Yes, they may have spoken, for example, about crimes or, for example, about abuses that unfairly have been meted out to members of the gay or the lesbian community, But you find that the reality is that generally around the world, many are trying to understand that is this something which we are to see as being normal, considering for thousands of years it was never part and parcel of the life of the human being publicly. Privately, it has always existed. And even within the religion of Islam, no one has denied its existence. That we find within our literature, there is a clear mention within our legal texts, for example, within our historical works, for example, within ethical treaties, for example, a clear mention and a clear discussion of same-gender relations. But the Muslim community at the moment faces a major dilemma on this area. Why? Because on the first level, the reality for much of the Muslim community is that they live in Western shores. Much of the Muslim community, either out of choice or because of being, for example, refugees from certain war-torn countries, live in the Western world. When they live in the Western world, they therefore have a decision to make as to how to approach these issues. Because we know very well that if you were to live, for example, in Iraq, or to live in Iran, for example, or to live in Pakistan, while in these countries there are people who have such an orientation, it is not something which necessarily is ratified by law. So a person over there may not face, for example, discussions on this area. You may not have someone at your workplace who may sit with you and ask you a question, that what's your opinion, for example, on the LGBT community? What's your opinion on someone who feels that naturally they are born on a particular orientation? If you bring these things up over there, you either will have people who will mock you, or you'll have people who may ostracize you. Reality is no one's going to really entertain a dialogue on this issue, unless most probably it's in theological terms or in legal terms. If they're discussing, for example, from a particular legal text or a theological text, they may, for example, bring up this issue. But we who live in the West, for us, this is a reality that someone who works with me, for example, may be someone who identifies as being a member of the gay community, or someone who identifies as being a member of the lesbian community or the bisexual community. That person who therefore works with me is someone who may be one of the most pleasant people in the workplace alongside me. They may be someone who is full of respect, someone who's not judgmental, and therefore for the Muslim community living in the West, they have to on the first level face this dilemma, that how do I look at my theological and legal beliefs in relation to what is on the ground? On the ground, I live in a society that on the first level, I see people of such orientations who work with me, who may be at university with me, people of such orientations who, for example, have full rights in the country that you live in. And therefore, how do I approach this subject? Do we discuss it or do we not discuss it? Because when I bring up such a subject, there might be some who might turn around and say, why, for example, bring up such sensitive subjects? The reality is that these subjects were not only discussed in the Quran or discussed by the Imams of Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim, but also at the same time, these subjects are contemporary subjects, because even our children now face this issue. In which way? That our children now in the school system, when one discusses, for example, religious and sexual education, when you discuss religious and sexual education, it's going to be part and parcel of the curriculum. What are we now? Late August 2020, September 2020, you'll find that sex education may be, for example, compulsory already in the curriculum, but that there's new caveats to the discussion. How do I, as a Muslim who lives in Britain, for example, approach this issue? That my child, for example, will be taught that it's perfectly okay for someone who has two fathers, or it's perfectly okay for someone to have two mothers. There may be some people who are watching in the crowd who might even say to me that they were asked this question by one of their own children. That, for example, daddy, I saw someone who has two daddies, or I saw someone who has two mummies. How do you reply to this issue? Because there are many in the Muslim community as well who believe that there is nothing wrong with this. You may have some who, for example, who may have a member of their family who identifies as a gay Muslim. They say that I am a Muslim. I believe in Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih. But that I identify as a gay Muslim in the sense that I believe that the religion of Islam does not prohibit being gay. The religion of Islam may prohibit, for example, certain sexual deviations which may be associated with acts relating to the homosexual community, but that the religion of Islam has never been against love. The religion of Islam talks about love. There are different words for love in the Quran. Words such as, for example, hub, or words such as, for example, mawadda, are all mentioned in the Quran. Some are one-sided love, some are two-sided love. And so they say that therefore I want to identify as a Muslim who is gay. Virtually every single time there is a discussion about gay rights, for example, straight away, a couple of weeks later, there's a discussion about two Muslims who got married who are, for example, both male. And so that discussion is put in the media to highlight that, look, there are certain scholars who may allow this. Yes, you may not have heard of them, but we can point you to them where you can go and have your aqid or your kitab, or you can have your nikah or your marriage ceremony done. So you found, therefore, that even our youth on this issue wonder, that is this something that we view naturally, or is it something to do with nurture? If I have, for example, a cousin who identifies as a gay Muslim, do I maintain my communication with them, or should I stop my communication with them outright? Because part and parcel now of our life, everywhere we look, is a push in relation to, for example, the homosexual community. When I look, for example, at Sky Sports News, I think every other week on Sky Sports News, they're begging for someone to come out as gay. But what's the need? Why are you begging somebody to come out as gay? For goodness sake, there are people who want to have their private lives. Every week, when is the first gay football player going to finally come out? Even if there are football players who are gay. But the push is that you should come out and tell everybody. Let them know your sexual worldview. Because now the second dilemma that we face is that the sexual worldview keeps changing. The barometer of sexual morality changes every single week. Some of the things which were viewed as illegal 50 years ago are now legal. Some of the things which were viewed as taboo 20 years ago are now seen as being normal. So now, even for us, there's a dilemma. Not just us, by the way. For the Christian community, there's a dilemma. For the Jewish community, there's a major dilemma. Nobody is more outspoken in relation to homosexuality and its education in schools, or bisexuality and its education in schools, as much as the Jewish community. The Jewish community speaks out more than any other. They have a concern, and their concern is related to the fact that, look, you may view the world with your lens. Let me view the world with my lens. In the same way I mentioned last night about ta'ifiyya and sectarianism, that people can view the world with their own lens. But to push people that they have to accept a certain lens is unacceptable, whether it comes from Islam or whether it comes from outside of Islam. What I mean is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, for example, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wants to believe, let them believe. And whoever wants to disbelieve, let them disbelieve. I cannot force you to accept my worldview on this issue. You have every right to have your worldview. But likewise, when I do not accept your worldview of sexual diversity, don't call me archaic or backward or fundamentalist or terrorist. I want to live, okay, in a pluralistic society. Socially, you have your own worldview, I have mine, but allow us to explore each other's lens that we are coming from. What's true dialogue? The etymology of the word dialogue comes from what? Seeing through the other. In the same way that you have your lens, which relatively is a modern lens, because 50 years ago we would not have this discussion. Maybe this mosque would be closed down if we had this discussion. And not closed down, by the way, by Muslims. It would be closed down by the government, that we already have an act in 1967 that such acts sexually are prohibited. Now, when we come 50 odd years later, something that in British society was completely prohibited has become something which is completely normal. Okay, that's the development of society. The question is, what can of worms does that open on other areas which in British law today may be viewed as prohibited, and in the year 2070 may be viewed as cool. Let's tonight examine this issue. And I'd like to do this in the following stages. If one was to use an Islamic lens, how does Islam view homosexuality and LGBT rights? Number two, when the Quran mentions the gay community, does the Quran also mention the lesbian community? And is it only the gay community that has a story about them in the Quran and in the biblical works as well? Number three, is Islam anti-sexual relations? As in, is there a view that Islam doesn't want a person to be happy with their partner? Or is it that Islam said there are certain things which are all natural, but who sets their morality and the way that they are guided comes from revelation rather than just one's personal individualism? Number four, what if someone says they are gay and Muslim? How do I approach them? Can it be a case where a person is both gay and Muslim in one identity? Number five, are they allowed to enter our mosques if they believe in La ilaha illallah and Muhammad Rasulullah, but they also believe that this lifestyle is a lifestyle which is acceptable? Number six, if a person turns around and says that I was wrong in the act that I committed, is the door of repentance open, or is such a person condemned straight away? Number seven, when the government wants to introduce to young children graphic images of people of different sexual orientations, what is the role of the Muslim community on this area? And finally, what areas can sometimes lead us to performing such acts? And how should we beware of this for our youth? And how important are role models in the future of our youth in Western society? And which role models can they take from the 10th of Muharram? Let's examine this and dissect the topic in complete depth. If I put my Islamic lenses on, and I make it clear, my Islamic lens, in the same way that you believe that you have your lens, I have my lens. And there's no way that I want to force my lens on you. You can agree to agree, or you can agree to completely disagree. Whether I put my Islamic lens, or my Christian lens, or my Jewish lens, it takes me back to the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Because we know very well that the act of sodomy is fundamental in these relationships between males. And it comes from the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. People of Sodom and Gomorrah, the story is mentioned not just in relation to the Jewish and the Christian community, but also in the Quran. So that means in the population of the world of 7 billion, 3.5 million of the people have either got a random fairy tale or may have got something pretty clear. Because when you look at it, you find Nabi Lut, who was the brother of Nabi Salih. They were the nephews of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Within their community, their people were a people had a number of crimes. Of their crimes, for example, they were highway thieves, bandits. They used to scare people who used to come past their town. And this is, of course, one of the greatest sins in the religion of Islam. But amongst their crimes as well was that there were clear relationships between people of the same gender. And the Quran discusses this in different chapters, either in Surah 7 or Surah 11, for example. And the ayahs of the Quran are clear as to what Lut says to them, because it became so prevalent, men, men, female, female, that morality, when it came to sexuality, went completely out of the window. Anyone who came into town, that was seen as someone who they could go towards. And so, of course, when Nabi Lut alayhi salam has his guests, they want some of those guests as well. Those guests being in the Quranic story, which we see in the world of hadith of Jibreel and Mikael and Sarafil, were coming to say that these people will be overturned, except the good ones. If there are good in any society, they will not be overturned, but the worst of them will be overturned. The Quran highlights to us what Lot says to the people. In Surah 7, verse number 81. And I'd like to make this very clear. Why? He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ شَهْوَةً مِّن دُونِ النِّسَاءِ. That you approach the men with your lustful desires and don't go towards the woman. When he says this, he then says, بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ مُسْرِفُونَ. You are an extravagant, people who exceed the limits, group of people. When he says this, why is he saying this? If a person going towards the male of a community, the males of the community, is something which is seen as being good, something which is seen as being natural, for what reason would he as a prophet want to stop this? For that matter, why would prophets after him all stop this? As in, why isn't there a single of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who would stop such an act? As in, what's wrong if a person has found somebody who they're attracted to and they want to go towards that person? Then here, Nabi Lut would not stop them. But he does by saying, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ شَهْوَةً مِّن دُونِ النِّسَاءِ. That's what is the norm for us in Islam. And by the way, the norm for the majority of the history of humanity. It doesn't mean that there aren't people who have had a gay lifestyle or what they say in the closet and then coming out. It's always been there. And it's rampant, even, let me make clear, in Muslim countries. But the norm also is that society recognized procreation was going to look after its survival. And it recognized, whether it was Muslim or non-Muslim, that this was seen as an act in the Islamic lens, in the Jewish lens, was seen as an act that was what? Was seen as an act that was abhorrent. Someone says that, Sayyidina, the problem for Nabi Lut wasn't that these people were going for male-male relations. It was because they were coming to rape one another. And therefore, the problem that the Quran has with homosexuality is not male-male love. It's male-male rape. If you rape somebody, this is why Nabi Lut got angry. He said, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ شَهْوَةً مِّن دُونِ النِّسَاءِ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ مُسْرِفُونَ means you people are raping the men. So what? Is he saying you people are raping the men instead of raping the woman? Yes. Because when you're now saying مِن دُونِ النِّسَاءِ, you have to also put an understanding on this. Also later Nabi Lut says, my daughters are better for you. Have you ever seen a man who tells a group of rapists that my daughters, by the way, if you want to marry them, they're better for you? Would you recommend a rapist to go towards your daughter? Not at all. So therefore, these arguments that are posited, that Islam and the story of Nabi Lut alayhi salam is a story against rape, that if you get somebody and rape them, that is something which is not allowed, male-male. But if a male finds somebody who they love, and they have an attachment to, and they want to grow with, then that is something which is perfectly acceptable. Again, not only do I look at the Quran, but I also look at the exegesis of the Quran, tafsir of the Quran. And the tafsir is vital. Why? Because the Quran as a text does not emerge in a vacuum. The Quran emerges at a time where there is a context. I need to know what is the tafsir. I can't just go to anyone for the tafsir. I need to go to those who came alongside the Quran. So when the Holy Prophet said, إِنِّي تَارِكُمْ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنِ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَعِتْرَةِ أَهْلَ بَيْتِي مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِمَا لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِ أَبَدًا. When my Prophet said, I leave behind the Quran and my Ahl al-Bayt. Why the Ahl al-Bayt? Because the Ahl al-Bayt give me a solid understanding of what these verses mean. If you come and give me a tafsir, and you say, for example, Abu Hanifa, in his opinion, this is the tafsir. I don't mind. You're more than welcome to go to Abu Hanifa's tafsir. You can go to the tafsir of Malik or a Maliki. You could go to a Shafi'i's tafsir. You could go to a tafsir of the Hanabila. I don't mind. For me, I go to the tafsir of Al Muhammad salawatullah wa salam alayhim. When I go to the tafsir of Al Muhammad, do Al Muhammad tell me the family of the Prophet? Do they say to me, for example, that this was only because of rape? Had the male fallen in love with another male, then God would not have destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah had 3 punishments pelted on it, literally and metaphorically. Not only did they have the stones that were pelted on them, the same way Ashab al-Fil, the story of the elephant, you had the stones that were pelted, yes, Hijarat min Sijil. Likewise, you had from Sijil, those same stones that were pelted on the people. The place was showered with it. You had the whole area turned upside down. So when Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked about this particular practice, this is the Islamic lens version. Imam Sadiq was asked that this sodomy is something acceptable or no. He goes, no, sodomy is worse than adultery. Male, female in Islam is seen as a natural relationship. Except that if you haven't had, for example, a contract between each other, it's counted as either fornication or adultery. Fornication, for example, if someone is not married and they commit adultery. But if someone is married, for example, that could be counted as zina as well, fornication or adultery. Imam says, God never destroyed a nation because of adultery, but he destroyed a nation because of sodomy. There is no nation that was destroyed because of zina. Yes, there may have been nations where the love of adultery may have led to, for example, destruction of that nation. In the case of, for example, the people of Thamud with the camel of Nabi Salih alayhi salam. When they killed it, it's because of someone who had love for this particular lady. She said to him, if you kill the camel, I will give you whatever you want. At the end, what happened? They killed the camel, they were destroyed. But that wasn't because of the act of adultery. There was an intention to commit adultery. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, when he's asked this question, doesn't say anything about there is a difference between if you fall in love and if you rape. Imam says, God destroyed a whole nation because of the act of sodomy. Whereas an act of adultery, God has not destroyed the whole nation. I guarantee you many prophets of God were living in frivolous societies. Do you agree? You're telling me when Pharaoh was alongside Musa, or you're telling me when the kings were alongside Yusuf, there wasn't adultery happening everywhere, but that nation survived. The nation was not turned upside down. The only nation that was destroyed, not because of adultery, but because of sodomy. Therefore, on the first level, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam makes it clear that this conclusion that some people reach, that the story of Lut and homosexuality is bad if it's rape, whereas if it's only love, then there is no problem there whatsoever. That's on the first level. On the second level, what do we find? Lesbians are mentioned in the Quran or no? Yes, in the Quran, in Surah 50 verse 12, God talks about a number of nations, Ad and Thamud and so on. And then he talks about Ashab al-Ras. Ashab al-Ras refers to a group of people. They used to have this tree which was planted by the son of Noah. And they saw the tree as like a blessing in their town. When they saw this tree as a blessing, slowly the tree turned from being a blessing to something people were worshipping. Therefore, the prophet who was sent to them, who was after Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, came to them and said that, look, the way you're moving, firstly, you're worshipping the tree. Secondly, you're now becoming sexually deviant, because amongst you there are females who sleep with other females. Again, there might be people who are watching this lecture. I must make this clear. This is the Islamic lens of it. I have my tradition, you have your tradition. Yours is approximately 50, 60 years of age publicly. Mine's only about 10,000 years of age. Now, when we look at this, therefore, those ladies were in relations with each other. Those ladies who were in relations with each other, they were clearly those who had fought that prophet of God. You know what they did to him, the prophet? Ras, in opinions of some scholars, refers to what? Refers to a well. Something you dig. They got the prophet of God, tied him up and killed him in that well. Of their behaviors was what? Was that they were, many of them were indulging in female relations. Therefore, when the Quran condemned Ashab al-Ras, or the Quran condemned the people of Lut, it looked at two prevalent areas and made it clear that don't look at this text as a book of history. It can relate to your life more than ever before. Because many of us, when we look at the Quran, because of the parrot fashion that we're taught the Quran, there are many of us who can't relate to the Quran. There are many of us, the Quran is a book that has dust on the shelves because we don't realize. And do you know who? Those within our community who are under Mambar have louder voices than those who are on Mambar. Those who are under suddenly begin to tell you what you can lecture on, what you can't lecture on. Inshallah, there'll be a day you go up to lecture and let me watch you. I look forward to it. But for the time being, you sit where you are and let us reply back to the emails that we receive, possibly from one of your own children. So what you have, therefore, is that on this front, you have that the gay community, the lesbian community, prevalent today was also the Quran, not denying. The Quran didn't want to say that this has never existed. I can guarantee you in baths in Rome, in parts of Greece, in parts, for example, of Arabia, there have always been those who have indulged in what? In either male-male relations or female-female relations. That being there all the time doesn't mean it was a norm. Therefore, someone asked, what's Islam's problem? Islam doesn't want someone to be sexually happy. As in, what's the issue with Islam? Islam, on the contrary. If ever there was a religion that encouraged sexual relations, it's Islam. We are not the Christianity that had priests who are celibate, who devote their life to God, in what in reality is possibly one of the most unnatural ways of life you can have. At the end of the day, there are certain organs in the human body which are created for certain things. Biologically speaking, those organs are created for certain things, and there are others which certainly are not created for any sexual interaction. That there is no doubt. But let's say, for example, that within the church, there are those who say, I devote myself to God. That sexual norm is not something we accept, where a person says that I devote myself to God, therefore I will not get married at all. Even a person came to the imam, he said to him, or she said to the imam, that I don't want to get married because I am a lady who wants to devote my life to God. I want to remain celibate, spiritual, of the people who have ma'rifah and tasawwuf. At that moment, the imam replied back to her by saying, if staying away from marriage and relations means you get closer to God, then the first who wouldn't have got married would have been Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. Because if anyone knows spirituality, it's Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. But in the same way Fatima al-Zahra got married, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa got married, the imams got married. Islam is not anti-sex. But Islam makes it clear that there are certain desires in the human being which we call neutral desires. What do I mean? Eating food, is it something good or bad? Neutral. Eating food is a desire within the human being. You can't categorize eating food as good or bad, but you can direct it to being that which is good or that which is bad. Therefore, in Islamic law, we're told how you eat. Don't just, for example, make your stomachs a graveyards for animals. Have a break every once in a while. Meat, chicken, meat, non-stop. There's a period a person can have some vegetables. There's a person can change that particular habit. In itself, food is neutral. I can either guide food to making me look healthy or making me someone obese who doesn't look after themselves at all. At the end of the day, that eating of food, the direction is given to me by what? By religion, which tells me even how I munch my food. Isn't that true? It says, for example, munch it into pieces. Don't just swallow it whole. Try and munch it into pieces. Try and not finish a meal full. I've always said that's one of the recipes of success, is you don't finish that meal going, oh, now I feel heavy, I tell you. Why? Ali ibn Abi Talib picked that up years ago. He said, when you eat, don't eat until you're full. Stop just before. And look at the difference in your health. How many times you see people who will turn around and say, oh my God, I'm so heavy, I can't move. That's not Islamic, ya habibi. It's not Islamic. Islamically speaking, a person doesn't finish until they can't move. A person stops at a certain point. Why? Because the religion has helped guide what is a neutral desire. Who knows the creation better? The creator or the creation? You tell me. The designer of the Ferrari, who knows the Ferrari better? The person who designed it or me when I give my opinion? I could look at the Ferrari and say, for example, that I believe the engine should be at the front, not the engine should be at the back. The person in Maranello will turn around and say, listen, Habibi, you can have your opinion, but we're the ones who design it. We know you better than you know yourself. If my worldview is a worldview where God is in the worldview. Problem is, the sexual dimension we live in now hedonistic, nihilistic, everything goes. Swinging, normal. Cruising, normal. Dogging, normal. All of these are normal now. They become a norm. When I say they become a norm, if a person speaks out against them, why are you speaking out? And exactly the same as what Lut's community replied back to him. When he said to them, بَلْ أَنْتُمْ قَوْمٌ مُسْرِفُونَ, they look at him and his people and they're like, أُنَاسٌ يَتَطَهَّرُونَ. In front of us, he says, you're extravagant. They're like, you're too puritanical. Exactly the same. There was an article recently about gyms in London. Of them, the most famous, or one of the most famous chains is the Virgin Active gyms. Of those gyms, now they're discussing how gyms are a place for you to have wonderful male-male relations. They tell you, for example, go to this sauna, or you pick up someone there. And you found that some, I must admit, of the gay community will say that, look, this shouldn't be done. We should respect others who are in the gym. And then there's someone who replied, Wallah, you would think, I swear by my Lord. I swear, and that you can find the article online, Virgin Active, and they're talking about this cruising culture. Islam's not against sex. Islam just says, listen, don't let your animalistic side take over you, that's all. Don't let it take over you. When you see this person, you know what he says? They said to him, but isn't this immoral? He said, and why? God has created us with parts which we want to use. And if I want to use them at a gym, or in the bathroom or the showers of a gym, what's there to stop me? These people, puritanical, all they talk about is religion. Imagine the Quran, same verses are active in London here in this discussion. That a person talks actively, that's why are there unasun yatataharun? I am of the people, God, I've been given this, why do I need these people to stop this? God's created me naturally this. Buddy, God created us with certain things naturally, I agree with you. To urinate is natural, for example. But what do? I walk in the middle of the street in front of everyone, urinate? Not everything that's natural is moral. There are certain things that have to be guided. I, at the end of the day, am not an animal. The problem is now, the structure socially is you're an animal. Because now, even when they compare and they say to me, do you know, this is natural. I say, how is it natural? They say, because a penguin does it. Who cares what a penguin does? What's a penguin? He says to me, a penguin does this. I'm like, you for real? He goes, a monkey does this. My brother, a creation or a species that produced Gibran and produced Lao Zhu and produced Shakespeare and produced Hawkins and produced. You're comparing it to a penguin? Wallah, I don't understand. Really. The problem is we live in a society of sheep as well. That's the problem. You live in a sheep society. Oh, how did COVID become so strong? Because they knew this world is full of sheep. COVID, when they want to spread the word about COVID, yes, we see people who have died of COVID, but they want to exaggerate it. They know everyone's sheep. These are all sheep. Tell them there's a virus going around. They're going to go nuts and we'll take over everything because they're all sheep. None of them are going to question authority, question the narrative. When I see former Disney stars, Hannah Montana, imagine, innocence, now cannot come on television without being nude. This is sad? This is what we wanted? This is the ethics that we wanted? As in, where is society gone? That you've become anywhere, let's go. Is there any parks we can go where we can be with each? That's it. And you know what the worst thing is? There is a whole Pride Day, a pride, which is called Gay Pride. Everybody can come out and celebrate. If I did some of the things that day that they do, or if I dressed like this, you know what they say? Take it to a room, go somewhere else. Here's these two people, for example, kissing in a cinema. I say, look at these two. But if it's in the pride, none of you can say anything. Because if you do, you're backward. Buddy, you have your narrative, I have mine. I live in the same society as you, I accept. No doubt, we're all together, I'll tolerate. Doesn't mean I accept what you're doing. In a gay pride, you're walking. What's you walking with? So why do you need to walk with whips and leashes? What's all this about? But no one can say a word. You can't say. Why? Because the CEOs of some of the biggest companies in the world belong to this orientation. The very people who I use to call people and others who I use for my laptops, they belong to this. These people don't have no such thing as akhirah. There's no accountability. Sexually, what I feel, you're not going to stop. There is no barometer. If a drag queen has to teach the children, then so be it. Let her dress and drag, she'll teach your kids. Why? Why you have to dress and drag to come and teach a kid? Why are we going that direction? What's that? So therefore, for us in Islam, sexual morality has to have certain barometers, certain boundaries. Same way you have a problem when you Muslims can marry 4. I could marry, no problem. I'll tell you all the guidelines, the laws, what's related to it. Some of us can't get past 1. You want us to get past 4? No problem. You want us to look at these? Likewise, if I was to look at yourself, everyone has their lens. But where are we going now? Where now certain acts of frivolity have become a norm. Therefore, someone asked, what if, for example, someone says, I want to be gay and Muslim. Muslim and gay. Is there anything wrong with this? There's no such thing. And I don't know why you're causing yourself difficulty with this. As in, why do you want to stick to being a Muslim? There's so many other ways of life where you can go and enjoy yourself. You can go and enjoy yourself without anyone stopping you. Why do you want to stick with this religion? Why? In all honesty, sincerely. As in, if I see now someone who's gay and Muslim, there's no such thing. They're like, hold on, why is there no such thing? Because we believe that such an act is an act which is immoral. It's not natural. It is something, if you get it from society, I have no doubt. There are many ways in which a person can become aroused. There are many ways in which a person thinks something is natural. There are many ways in society. I don't care how straight you are, you can still be affected by society. Don't get me wrong. But as a Muslim, you cannot be Muslim and gay. Someone says, why? On the first level, Imam makes it clear. A person who believes that this act of sodomy is also an act acceptable for them while they're a Muslim becomes a kafir at that moment. Becomes a disbeliever. Because you know there are certain people who feel they can get away with it in which way? They feel that they can get away with it by saying that, look, I love God, I love the Prophet. Yeah, but buddy, you can't pick and choose what of the Prophet you want to love and take. As in, either there is a Prophet who's come with a particular way of life, you either accept it or you don't. You can't start picking and choosing. I wish we could pick and choose. I wish. Same. Others, don't we wish? Guys, don't we wish? We wish we could pick and choose. Even the Arabs were turning around and they were saying to the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, they were saying that, listen, we'll become Muslim, but on one condition. Can we still go to our idol like once a week? I wish we could pick and choose. There were others who were saying, we'll be Muslim, but allow us to drink. I wish we can pick and choose, but we can't. Someone says, but you still allow people who commit sins to come to the mosque. There are those who drink alcohol and they come to the mosque. That person who drinks alcohol on the first level, that person, if they don't believe that what they're doing is something allowed by Islam. They may be sinning, but you'll see them say that I wish this is something that I stop, or inshallah I have an intention to stop. You'll never see someone who's drinking alcohol comes to them and say, you know what, I think that this is perfectly all right. Yeah, you might find certain parts of, I don't know, maybe some of the Middle East, some parts of Pakistan where people can mix 50 identities in one human being. But generally, you will not find a person, if they're a sinner, who'll be like, yeah, I actually believe in what I'm doing, and I'm coming to them. They'll say normally, you know what, I need to change this, bro. I need to stop this, bro. Therefore, there's a difference between someone who says that what I'm doing is okay, and I'm a Muslim, and someone who says, you know what, astaghfirullah, what I'm doing is not right, bro, but you know what, I've got to stop it, I'm going to change it, I have an intention to. Secondly, do I stop someone who, for example, has that orientation, and at the same time wants to come to the mosque? You don't stop them from coming to the mosque. This is the house of God, not your house. What do I mean? Someone who, for example, identifies as gay, but they are also Muslim. Imagine they wanted to come to Majlis al-Hussein alayhi salam in the mosque. Do I stand at the door in front of this person and stop them? No, I don't. That person is coming, for example, to the house of God. They want to open up to their Lord. They want to talk with their Lord. That space has to be there, because there's something I want to make clear. Me differing with someone on their lens of sexual morality is one thing. Like the Jewish community, we both believe that the act is prohibited. However, I will never accept people who show hate crimes to people because of their sexual orientation. That is not acceptable. Someone has a sexual orientation, there's no hate crimes to be shown to them. There's a difference between the law and there is a difference between the ethics. Legally, I can agree with you that, listen, you believe in something, I believe in another, we can agree to disagree. Whereas ethically, I don't go and show hate crime to somebody because of their orientation. If now, and by the way, this question was posed to Ayatollah Sistani, may Allah lengthen his life, that if there is someone in the community who has that particular lifestyle, they want to come to the mosque, he said, you don't stop them from coming to the mosque. They're welcome into the mosque. Because that person, only God knows what they've been through in life. I'm not here to judge. Let me make this clear. If there is someone out there, I don't know who's been sexually abused when they were younger and they've held it in for a long time. There are many who've been sexually abused. And I'm telling you, within the Muslim community, you have this as rampant, by the way. Some of the more religious ones, sometimes if you look at their faces in our communities, they may have positions in the mosque. And you find that they are predators. In which sense? They may have abused a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, sometimes within their own families. Yeah? Those people, therefore, who may have decided for a particular lifestyle, at the end of the day, I am no one to judge what they've been through in life. At the end, that person may have gone through a traumatic experience. Someone says, but Sayyidina, there might be someone who says that, no, I've not gone through any experience. This is my choice. I've decided that I want this. What do we do about this? Let's make a distinction on two fronts. A distinction between someone who's an LGBT activist. So, lesbian is haram, prohibited in Islam. Gay, prohibited in Islam. Bisexual, prohibited in Islam. Transgender or sex reassignment surgery that may take place, for example, where someone may be male, but they may have certain organs of the body, parts of the body of a female. You find the likes of Ayatollah al-Khomeini, Ayatollah Khamenei allowed for that reassignment surgery. Ayatollah Sistani may have a difference of opinion, but you found that therefore someone who comes and says, I'm part of an LGBT movement politically, is different from someone who is gay, but doesn't necessarily identify publicly as it, and may even have difficulties with what they're facing. Because I've got to be very clear. When someone in our community tells me that I find that this is my orientation, for example, since the age of 5. I've got to admit, mind you, at the age of 5, I didn't even know I had private parts. But anyway, everyone seems to have a story at the age of 5 that they remember that they were born on that path. No problem. You have good memory. My memory is not the best. Anyway, so when you come to that, you may have somebody who says to you that from that age, I always felt that I was of this orientation. No problem. And until today, they are of that orientation. No issue. I personally don't know how exactly it feels to be certain that you are attracted to the same gender. I don't know. I really don't. And I think it's a gray area in the Muslim world, because it's easy for a person to look at theology and look at law abstractly, but when someone's your own cousin and they come and tell you that I just can't be attracted, for example, to the opposite gender, at that moment, what do? Here, our mosques, I believe, one area they're missing, there needs to be more openness, not just on taboo subjects, but even services where someone can open up, where counseling can take place, where a person can talk. I don't want if someone now comes and tells me that I have been in a relationship with same gender 5-6 years. Can they do repentance? Can they do tawbah? No, of course they can. Yeah, the door of God is always open. What if someone says, I just can't help this? Okay, let's have time to talk about this. Let's open up. We shouldn't push people away. There should be space to talk about these things. Someone may have never opened up to somebody about these things. They've decided to continue with that lifestyle. If they really believe in God and they believe in the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, it's not going to work for them to accept that that lifestyle is part and parcel. And I know people on a personal level who have that type of inclination and feelings, but they say it's my test and I'm not going to do anything which I believe goes against God. And that is a big test, in all honesty. Because if a person tries to compare it to us, even if we have a test sexually, we can still get married one day. Whereas that person, for them, can they get married one day? Have people changed? People have changed. No one, when you say it's bisexual, there are some who believe they're gay, then suddenly they go with a female, then they come back to a male, then they come back to a female. People, not necessarily always as clear as it seems, But someone says, Sayyidina, at the end, it's part of our society now, 2020. What's wrong? We've evolved, we've moved on. You know what's wrong? The problem is, if something which is seen as illegal, prohibited, taboo, unnatural, only 50 years ago, has now become something very normal, what other things which are prohibited today will become normal? Because when someone tells me that, look, someone tells me that I'm born gay, what if someone one day says that I'm born with attraction to my family members, like my son, for example? Incest is something which is seen as being abhorrent today. But even if I say it's abhorrent, in 2070, who knows, it could be normal. Someone says, no, it can't be. Say, why can't it be? Say, because medically, incest is disgusting, it's weird, it's awful, it hurts, it destroys. If I'm not mistaken, AIDS was called the gay syndrome. And today, people have found medicine, science has developed. And you can look after yourself from HIV or from AIDS in certain ways. So what's there to stop in 50 years' time someone saying that if a father decides to sleep, say a father's 49, their son is 25, they want to have a relationship incestually, someone says, astaghfirullah, this is not... But hold on, 50 years ago we were saying astaghfirullah, now it's okay. And 50 years ago society was saying it's wrong, now it's okay. Let me say, even other areas. I'm not saying that I'm equating these two together. All I'm saying is, if there's no codification of laws of marriage, there's no guidance, then there's no limit to where sexual morality, or rather, will go. Now, you see in the schools, what are they saying? Children, as young as whatever, 8, 9 years of age, from now, telling them that, listen, you can have 2 dads, you can have 2 moms, you have to learn about this, you have to accept this. On the one hand, as we mentioned, if someone does find this out, you don't show hate to someone because of their orientation. On the other, why are you forcing it on me, buddy? Why? Why are you forcing it? I'm not understanding. You're the ones who are against the right and the right wings, and you become more right wing than the right wing when it comes to this issue. I thought you were left and they were right. Now, if you don't accept this issue, you're backward. I thought you're left wing, not right wing. I'd expect this from someone very conservative, so extreme. And now the left has become the far right. Because now, if you don't... So what do we do as a Muslim community? First and foremost, there has to be more political involvement in us with the schools and with the local council. Alhamdulillah, in your Jama'at here in Peterborough, you have the likes of Al-Hajj, Raza, Hussein, Rahim and others who are very active. I had the pleasure of visiting Faizana, Medina Mosque today and meeting brothers of our Sunni community here in Peterborough. And we had the discussions concerning many of the pertinent issues. And I saw Hajj Raza Hussein discussing this area. Secondly, be on the school board, so you have a say in what's going on. Thirdly, there should be a right for parents to opt out. The Jewish community made it clear that a person has a right to opt out. In our schools, we have the right to opt out. Someone says, what if I'm not in a private school, or I'm not in a... Have the right to opt out. Have consultation with the teachers. Sit with the teachers. Let's look at the curriculum. Maybe I don't want my children to be exposed to such imagery young. I'm all for people learning about science of anatomy and biology. But there's certain ages which children comprehend. They don't comprehend. Why are we going towards a society where you think sometimes pedophiles are running the whole show? Because I get wary sometimes when every time I hear members of government's files are coming out from the last 50 years who are abusing 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds in schools. I don't know what's going on with the sexual imagery and the sexual morality, because hedonism is going to a crazy proportion at the moment. And certain people's fantasies are being fulfilled in our name. And the only way that we can change it is what? Is by sitting down, consulting, and saying that, listen, if my kids are going to learn about these things, I believe there's an age for them. I believe that there's a level of maturity that you need for these things. But further than that, not only must we be in consultation, but we also have to look at where our youth are heading as well. Because these are slippery slopes. Sex and sexual morality, they are slippery slopes. Anyone can fall. And there are certain areas we have to think about. And many of these who have been involved in such acts, when he tells you about his first experience, you know what he says? We had a few drinks that night. 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 The poison that is alcohol, that has led to so much sexual abuse. that has led to so much sin, that has led to innocent girls crossing a road with someone hitting them drunk driving, that has led to wives being beaten by drunkards. And still, you put it on the shelves. Drink, because it's money. Who cares about them? Who cares morality? It's money. One of the main areas which starts off such movements from the time of Nabi Lut alayhi salam until where? Until today. Alcohol. I don't care who you are. You just need a good night of drinking. Your best friend who you never weren't attracted to, you'll kiss them there and then. You don't need to. It doesn't mean that you're gay, but you'll still try. You'll experiment. It's a fad. Drugs. Look at the drug culture that's involved. Because when you're telling me, someone says it's just my orientation, how comes half the party is drugs one way, alcohol the other? I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the straight community, but this drugs and alcohol has no limits in the way it can destroy the human being. These intoxicants, mixed with a person who has no moral barometer, can destroy society. And why do you think Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam rose? For what reason? When he saw alcohol on the Mambar in Sham, he knew this religion is about to die. He knew. Because on the one hand, his grandfather was preaching that alcohol, while it's available, can ruin people's lives. Look how many actors could not survive because of them being addicted to alcohol, to drugs, which made them go into a world of sexuality and morality, which was far from what society wanted. And you found Imam al-Hussein looking in Sham. Sheikh Abdul Hamid Kishk in his famous lines, when he looks at Imam al-Hussein at Karbala, Yazid in Sham, you know what he says? Knowledge. And he compares it with what? With alcohol. He says silk and alcohol in a throne in Damascus, and knowledge lies on the ground in Karbala. Allahu Akbar. Look at the difference between the two. You've got a person over there who is part of a society where they don't mind this poison being drunk everywhere. That is a key to so many sins. And you had on the side of Imam al-Hussein the best of role models, because our youth, the only way they will remain strong is when you bring up the role models they can look up to. And who can you look up to in Karbala? How many youth role models could I give you who highlighted how to live a pure life, a chaste life, a life where you were moral? There are so many you can refer to on the plains of Karbala. But every year, one stands out in particular for the way he had reached a level of wisdom and morality like none other. Qasim ibn al-Hassan. Qasim ibn al-Hassan was one of the 6-7 sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, who was there on the plains of Karbala. This young man, believe you me, is a role model. And do you know why? I believe that on the 10th of Muharram, one of the most wonderful lines you'll ever see of wisdom. Wisdom, for you to say this, for example, at the age of 11, is not something small. Because some of the companions would have conversations with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When they'd have these conversations, of these conversations, there'd be these conversations which one day someone has to write about a book. Which type of book? The intimate conversations of the afternoon of the 10th of Muharram. The intimate conversations. Some are conversations between a brother and a sister, 57 and 55 years of age. Some are intimate conversations between a mom and her 6-month-old baby. Some are intimate conversations between an elder brother and a younger brother, but seeing a younger brother with no arms. There are many intimate conversations in Karbala. Conversations of intimacy, of softness. And of them, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam with Qasim. How? Because they'll always have this intimate conversation. It looks like we're going to die, Abu Abdullah. Sukaina would ask him, Dad, have you submitted yourself to death? Is these the final moments? Akbar would speak to him, are we not on the truth? Are these not the final moments? Qasim with his uncle. When his uncle began to make clear that these are the final moments, and then he looked at Qasim. When he looked at him, he said to him, my nephew, how do you view death? Allahu Akbar. Look at the level of maturity you can reach in your youth. You want to throw all sorts of immorality on our youth. Our youth are the sons of Qasim and Akbar, the sons of Aun and Muhammad. Qasim, how do you view death? It's a question. Many of us are scared of death. Many of us don't want to talk about death. Many of us want to run away from death. He says, uncle, with you, death is sweeter than honey. Allah, what a line. With you, it's sweeter than honey. But on that afternoon of the 10th of Muharram, something stopped Aba Abdullah from sending him out. What was it? Every time he'd look in Qasim, he'd see his brother in his eyes. He was close to Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. So at that moment, you would find that when Qasim came to him, young man, he came to him, he said to him, uncle, it's my turn now. I want to go out and defend you. This same Qasim had a brother called Abdullah who had defended Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hassan came towards Qasim. He said to him, Qasim, no, your mother Ramla, she's on the army, she's in the tent. Because this was a sensitive moment, my dear brothers and sisters. On one side, what did you have? On one side, you had the Fazaris, and the other. So Ramla's side of her family were in Yazid's army. Imagine this. The Fazaris were in Yazid's army. She is in Imam al-Hussein's army. So he said to him, go look after your mom. Go back. His mom, the tears began to trickle from her eyes. She said, Qasim, why are you back? He said to her, Mom, my uncle didn't let me go. She said to him, why not? He said, you're too young. You should go and stay with your mom. It's as if Imam al-Hussein knows that in Shama Ghariba, they'll be kicking his mother. They'll be slapping his mother. They'll be hurting his mother. So the narration mentions that his mother said, young man, come with me. Imagine what type of mother is that. The tarbiyah, the morality. She said, Qasim, come with me. You know, she said that with a number of sons. This lady gave many on the 10th of Muharram, yes? Herself and Ishaq bin Talha gave many. She came to Aba Abdullah. She said, Aba Abdullah, this is the amana of your elder brother. This is the wasiyah of your elder brother. Your elder brother said there'll be a day when my brother Hussein is gharib and atshan at Karbala. Don't leave him, please. Make sure my sons represent him. Imam al-Hussein, of his soft spots, was his brother Hassan. Why? Because Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Hassan and Sayyidah Zainab, they saw all tragedies together. They saw the door pushed on their mother. They saw Ibn Muljam strike the sword on the head. He had seen the poison that venomously destroyed his brother. She said, Aba Abdullah, in the name of Hassan, my husband and your brother, let Qasim go. Don't let Qasim be disappointed. He broke down at that moment, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He truly broke down. May Allah give peace to the heart of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. When she hears this, Qasim came out to the battlefield. Imagine this. I want you to all imagine this, because sometimes in the Masa'ib or the Na'i, many times we rush through it, but sometimes I feel some delicate moments need to be stopped at. Qasim, young, not affected by the pressure of society. Qasim came out, stood in front of everyone. When he came out, he stood and he recited lines of poetry. What lines did he want to mention? There are a couple of points in these lines. First, in Tinkuruni fa'ana najlul Hassan. That if you don't know me, maybe you don't know who I am. I'm the son of Hassan alayhi salam. He's making it clear. صبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن, that I'm the grandson of who? He's the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Then these lines, they break my heart. هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن. Do you know what this Hussein is? He's like a prisoner, like a captive. Yes. بين أناس لا سق صوب المزن. He said that it's between these people, the most evil, the most treacherous of people. When he said these lines, he began to fight them one-on-one. You'd think that Imam al-Hassan had come back to life in the way that Qasim was defending Imam al-Hussein. One by one, he'd attack the soldiers of the opposition, and none of them could get to him. Every time when they'd attack him, he'd defend himself until he came to Abu Abdullah. He said, the armor of my body is heavy for me. But he remained strong. He continued to fight. Umar bin Sa'ad noticed something. Bani Hashim, you should never fight them one-on-one because they'll defeat you. It doesn't matter if they're 11. It doesn't matter if they're 70. They'll finish you one-on-one. All of a sudden, the men began to surround Qasim. Ramla's heart broke at that moment. May Allah give sabr to the mother of Qasim ibn al-Hassan. When they began to attack him, he still defended himself until one of the men struck him on his head. He fell and called out, my uncle Abu Abdullah, come to me. Imam al-Hussein at that moment, when he saw him on the ground, he came out running to him. He killed the opposition. He sat by that scene. May Allah give you sabr at this moment. He looked towards the eyes of his nephew. He said, it hurts me that you called upon me, but I could not help you, or that I came near you, but I was not able to save you. Imam picked up Qasim. I ask you one thing. How do you pick up a body with pieces everywhere? How do you pick that body up? Because he returned back to the tent. Sukaina called out, Baba, where is my cousin's body? Where is he? He entered the tent. Ramla did not cry straight away, nor did the other mother of the other son. Zainab looked at Imam al-Hussein. She said, Abu Abdullah, can you leave the tent? He said to her, why? She said, the mother wants to mourn for her son, but she doesn't want to break your heart. The Imam walked away. The mother fell on the body of her son. The way Rabab fell on Asghar and Layla fell on Akbar. That Sham Ghariba, just before it on the afternoon of the 10th of Muharram, these bodies were all lying on the ground. They had beheaded Imam al-Hussein. They had killed everybody else. Umar bin Sa'ad was standing there. He turned round to the horse riders. He said to them, I want you to all sharpen the hooves of your horses. They went, they sharpened the hooves of their horses. He then said to them, get ready now. They said, what do you want? He said, I want you to trample on the bodies of the companions of Hussein. They said to him, who do you want us to trample on? He began to mention name by name. Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi. They said, but Hur's tribe, Banu Riyah, they came forward. They said, listen, you've killed our son. We can't let you trample on his body. He said, Muslim bin Awsaja, Habib bin Mudahir, the tribe of Bani Asad came. They said, listen, you've trampled on our son's body. We do not allow, we've killed him. You do not allow him to trample. One by one, they went through the tribes, but each of them had a tribe to protect them. All of a sudden, Umar bin Sa'ad called out, trample on the body of Bani Hashim's members. When he said, trample on the body of Qasim, Banu Fazara, who were on the side of Yazid, called out, you've killed our son, don't trample on his body. When he said trample on the body of Ali al-Akbar, at that side, Ali al-Akbar was the relative of Yazid from his mother. And they said, you've already killed him, don't trample on his body. When he said trample on the body of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, al-Bani was related to Shimr bin al-Jawshan. So they said, leave the body alone. At this moment, all of you know where I'm heading. At this moment, they called out, is there anybody that lies on the ground whose mother and father's tribe are not here to protect him? They said to him, there's only one body that lies on the ground whose mother and father's tribe are not here to look after him. him. He said to them, whom? They said, Hussein bin Ali. At that moment they began to dig their hooves into the chest of Abdullah, kicking his body one side and the other. May Allah give sabr to Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Everyone had a tribe to protect their son, except the son of Ali and Fatima. Inna lillahi wa inna alayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Raise us with the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Ya Allah, for all of our brothers around the world, give them patience in their tests. Ya Allah, allow us to visit the grave of Aba Abdullah and renew our covenant with Qasim ibn al-Hassan alayhi salam. My dear brothers and sisters, we have a number of people who are feeling unwell. Many of you have messaged me. There's a few names, Sayyid Muhammad Haidar Radawi, Sister Hasina Karmali, others who have asked. I would like all of us to recite together wherever we may be. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. All of us together. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Ya Allah, in the name of the one who was ill at Karbala, Imam Zain al-Abidin, cure all of our beloved ones. If we can please recite a Surah Al-Fatiha in honor of my great uncle Yahya who passed away only a few days ago, and may Allah bless the soul of all of his marhumeen. May Allah bless the soul of all of your marhumeen. Let us recite a Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it, wherever you may be, the loudest of your salawat. Allahumma salli.
لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے 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 اس گری رو یہ بہت اس غری رو یہ بہت شیخ و حسن یاد آئے لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے اس گری رو یہ بہت اس گری رو یہ بہت شیخ و حسن یاد آئے لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے ہائے قاسم نہ تیرے ٹکڑے بدن کے ہوتے ہائے قاسم نہ تیرے ٹکڑے بدن کے ہوتے روکے سینے سے ہے، روکے سینے سے لگا یا تو حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے۔ ٹکڑے قاسم کے چنے اور عبا میں ڈالے، ٹکڑے قاسم کے چنے اور عبا میں ڈالے، باندھ کر لاشا ہے، باندھ کر لاشا اٹھا یا تو حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے۔ مہدی ارمانوں کی ہاتھوں میں لگا کر مانے، مہدی ارمانوں کی ہاتھوں میں لگا کر مانے، صحرا ماتھے پہ ہے، صحرا ماتھے پہ سجا یا تو حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، ٹکڑے قاسم کے چنے اور عبا میں ڈالے، ٹکڑے قاسم کے چنے اور عبا میں ڈالے، باندھ کر لاشا ہے، باندھ کر لاشا اٹھا یا تو حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے۔ فیضی شبیر کو جو قاسم کا جنازہ لائے، فیضی شبیر کو قاسم کا جنازہ لائے، زخمی تیروں کے ہے، زخمی تیروں کے جنازے میں حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، اس غریب رو یہ بہت، اس غریب رو یہ بہت، شیخ و حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا، حسن یاد آئے، ٹکڑے قاسم کے چنے اور عبا میں ڈالے، ٹکڑے قاسم کے چنے اور عبا میں ڈالے بند کر لاشا ہے بند کر لاشا اٹھا تو حسن یاد آئے لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے اس گھری رو یہ بہت اس گھری رو یہ بہت شیخ کو حسن یاد آئے لاشا قاسم کا نظر آیا حسن یاد آئے یا
حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین واولا ہے واولا 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 سب مل کے کرے اب اہل عذاب واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا کیسے ہو رقم احوال جفا آدان ستم کچھ ایسا کیا قاسم کا جسد پامال ہوا بے حال ہوئی ام فروا قاسم کا ماتم واولا بے کس کا ماتم واولا قاسم کا غم ہے اور فروا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا ہم شکل پیمبر مارا گیا 6 ماہ کا اصغر مارا گیا عباس دلاور مارا گیا شبیر کا دل بر مارا گیا اکبر کا ماتم واولا اصغر کا ماتم واولا زینب کے لبوں پر تھی یہ صدا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا اسلام نبی کا بچایا ہے تقدیر کا دیپ جلایا ہے قرآن کا مان بڑھایا ہے توحید پہ گئے کو لٹایا ہے شبیر کا ماتم واولا دلگیر کا ماتم واولا یہ اہل عزا کا ہے نوحہ واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا واولا ہے واولا کیا غربت تھی تنہائی کی جب شام غریب آئی تھی ایک ظلم کی بدلی چھائی تھی پیغام اسیری لائی تھی غربت کا ماتم واولا اطرت کا ماتم واولا سب اہل حرم کی چھین ردا واولا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا بچتا ہے جہاں پر فرش عزا ہوتا ہے جہاں پر غم برپا پرسے کو پہنچتی ہے زہرا کرتی ہے یہ ماں در در نوح سرور کا ماتم واویلا گر گر کا ماتم واویلا پیاروں پر کرتی ہے روز بکا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا کیسے ہو رقم احوال جفا آدان ستم کچھ ایسا کیا قاسم کا جسد پامال ہوا بے حال ہوئی ام فروا قاسم کا ماتم واویلا بے کس کا ماتم واویلا قاسم کا غم ہے اور فروا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا سب مل کے کرے اب اہل عزا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا واویلا ہے واویلا یا حسین 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 یا حسین
کیسے گلے پہ تیرے کھنجر پہ چلتا دیکھو آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ
تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں
گردن پہ رکھ کے تیری گردن پہ رکھ کے تیری اپنا گلا کٹا دوں
آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں
جب زین سے گرے تو کہیں چوٹ لگ نہ جائے جب زین سے گرے تو کہیں چوٹ لگ نہ جائے مقتل کے سرزمین سے مقتل کے سرزمین سے پتھر کو بے ہٹا دو
آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں.
چاروں طرف سے ظالم برسا رہے تھے پتھر، چاروں طرف سے ظالم برسا رہے تھے پتھر. نازک بدن میں کیسے، نازک بدن میں کیسے زخموں میں چور دیکھوں
آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں.
مومن جو کر رہے ہیں دن رات حسین کا غم، مومن جو کر رہے ہیں دن رات حسین کا غم. کیسے میں ماتمی کو، کیسے میں ماتمی کو جنت سے بھول جاؤں
آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں.
وہ آ رہا ہے ظالم خنجر چلانے والا، وہ آ رہا ہے ظالم خنجر چلانے والا. آجا وہ لال میرے، آجا وہ لال میرے سینے سے میں لگاؤ
آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں.
نیزے پہ ہائے دیکھوں کیسے میں تیرے سر کو، نیزے پہ ہائے دیکھوں کیسے میں تیرے سر کو. کیوں دل نہ روئے میرا، کیوں دل نہ روئے میرا آخر حسین ماں ہوں.
آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں. کیسے گلے پہ تیرے خنجر میں چلتا دیکھوں آخر حسین ماں ہوں.
یا
حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا
چلا جو خیمے سے مرنے رسول جیسا پسر تو پیچھے پیچھے یہ کہتے ہوئے چلے سرور، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، 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 کچھ دیر تو جی لے تیرا، کچھ دیر تو جی لے تیرا بابا علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، تم زی سے گرو گے تو بدل جائے گی دنیا، مقتل کی طرف کون ہمیں لے کے چلے گا، قاتل تو بتائیں گے نا، قاتل تو بتائیں گے نا رستہ علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، ہو جائے گا مشکل میرا آنا میرے بیٹا، مقتل میں کہیں دور نہ جانا میرے بیٹا، اب مجھ سے چلا بھی نہیں، اب مجھ سے چلا بھی نہیں جاتا علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، ہو جائے گا مشکل میرا آنا میرے بیٹا، مقتل میں کہیں دور نہ جانا میرے بیٹا، اب مجھ سے چلا بھی نہیں، اب مجھ سے چلا بھی نہیں جاتا علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، احساس تڑپنے کا ہمارا تجھے ہوتا، میری طرح تو اپنا جگر تھام کے روتا، تیرا بھی جو ہوتا کوئی، تیرا بھی جو ہوتا کبھی بیٹا علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جان علی اکبر، نانا گئے جب آئی تھی اماں پہ ضعیفی، تم جاتے ہو حالت ہے عجب بنت علی کی، زینب ہوئی جاتی ہے، زینب ہوئی جاتی ہے ضعیفہ علی اکبر، اکبر
مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر
نانا میرے پوچھے جو کہاں ریر لگائی کہہ دینا اجازت بڑی مشکل سے ہے پائی نانا میرے پوچھے جو کہاں دیر لگائی کہہ دینا اجازت بڑی مشکل سے ہے پائی لگ جاؤ گلے آ کے لگ جاؤ گلے آ کے دوبارہ علی اکبر
مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر
اے لال تجھے کرتا ہوں بابا کے حوالے میدان میں ہنستے ہیں کھڑے برچھیوں والے اچھی طرح پھر دیکھ لوں اچھی طرح پھر دیکھ لوں سینہ علی اکبر
مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر
تم زی سے گرو گے تو بدل جائے گی دنیا مقتل کی طرف کون ہمیں لے کے چلے گا قاتل تو بتائیں گے نا قاتل تو بتائیں گے نا رستہ علی اکبر
مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر
کچھ دیر تو جی لے تیرا کچھ دیر تو جی لے تیرا بابا علی اکبر
مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر مڑ مڑ کے مجھے دیکھتے جانا علی اکبر یا حسین 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 الفاتحہ
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین اهدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین السلام علیک یا رسول اللہ السلام علیک یا حبیب اللہ السلام علیک یا نبی اللہ السلام علیک یا امیر المؤمنین السلام علیک یا فاطمة الزہراء سیدتی نساء العالمین السلام علیک یا حسن المجتبی السلام علیک یا ابا عبداللہ وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولاه وابن مولاه. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفكراء. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وأنيس النفوس وعيح المدفون بأرض توس. السلام عليك يا سلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسحل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.